In this series of videos, we're going to be looking at Word Unit D, which is going to be dealing about formatting documents. Some of our objectives for this unit is going to be to set document margins, divide a document into sections, insert page breaks, format columns, insert page numbers, add headers and footers, edit headers and footers, insert a table, and insert clip art. Because the page formatting features of Word allows you to lay out and design the pages of your documents creatively. In this unit, you will learn how to change the document's margins, determine page orientation, add page numbers, and insert headers and footers. You will also learn how to format text and columns and how to illustrate your documents with tables and clip art. So if we take a look, we're going to go ahead and move now to our document here, which is going to be WDD1. And this is going to be found on our course sites underneath the content area for Word D. And we're going to be located on page 78 out of the textbook. And this page right here, this video is going to be dealing about setting document margins. Because changing a document's margins is one way to change the appearance of a document and to control the amount of text that fits on a page. The margins of a document are the blank areas between the edge of the text and the edge of the page. When you create a document in Word, the default margins are 1 inch at the top, bottom, left, and right sides of the page. You can adjust the size of a document's margins using the Margins command on the Page Layout tab, or you can use the rulers. And we've taken a look at these. Now, these are a little bit different than the indents. When we were talking about the indents, we were using the up arrow and the down arrow and the little box right here and the up arrow right here. However, the margins are this grayed out area, and that's what we're going to be working with and adjusting today. Step 1 tells us that we're going to start Word, and hopefully you've done that already, and opened up the WDD1 file from the course sites. And what we're going to do is we're going to save this as footprints. So we're going to just do an Office button, Save As, and then we're going to place this into your home directories or into your My Documents, and we're going to call this Footprints. We're going to keep it as a Word document using the extension .docx. There, our title is changed on there. Now, if for some reason you don't have the rulers, if your screen looks like this right here, you're going to need to be able to view the rulers on there. Now, you can do this in one of a couple different ways. Right above the scroll bar here on the right hand side, there's a little white area that has, it kind of looks like a ruler on there with a couple arrow, up pointing arrow and down pointing arrow. And when you put your mouse pointer over it, says View Ruler. And when you click on that, it will show you your rulers, and that is what you need. Another way of doing this is taking a look at the View tab. When you click on the View tab, and on the Show Hide here, you can click on Ruler, and that will show you the ruler as well. Step 2 tells us to scroll through the newsletter to get a feel for its content. So just take a little bit of time, and we can take a look through this, and we see that this is a newsletter, and we have our headings here, and there's some different articles that's in our newsletter. This looks like a little table of contents on there. Here looks like another news story on there. And so you can see that everything is, this is a very long document. This is 5 pages right now. And there's a lot of areas in which you can see that there's probably can be some improvement in. If we press our Control Home key, that's going to take us back up to the top of the document. And of course, you can also take a look down here as well on the status bar and notice that where you're at currently. So right now we're in section 1 of page 1 of 5 and how many words I have. Now, if you don't have this on here, you can always right click on the status bar and customize it on here. So you definitely want to have at least the section and page number already there. If that's not there, then you need to make sure that at least those two are there. The word count, I'm going to go ahead and remove that on there because we don't need the word count at this time period. And everything else I'm going to leave the same that's on there. So if I take a look, notice how my word count has disappeared, but I could easily get that back just by right-clicking and choosing the items to customize the status bar. Next, we're going to click on the Page Layout tab. So up here at the top, we're going to click on the Page Layout tab. And next, we're going to click on the Margins button on there. And when we click on the Margins button, notice that a drop-down menu will appear. and you can select the predefined margin settings from this menu, or you can customize your margins to create a different margin setting. On step 4, we're going to click on Custom Margins, and that's down on the bottom of this menu here. Of course, you can also click on the launcher in the Page Setup group to open this Page Setup dialog box as well. Now, the Page Setup dialog box opens up with the Margins tab currently displayed on there, and you can see that here's our Margins tab right here. And you can use the Margins tab to change the top, bottom, left, and right margins. Or you can change the orientation of the page from portrait to landscape, and this shows you how the letters will go. Portrait is more taller than what it is wide. Landscape is wider than what it is tall on there. And of course, this newsletter right now is going to be using the portrait orientation, so we need to make sure that it's going to stay there. And you can also use the orientation button in the Page Setup group as well, which is right up here where it says orientation, and you can change your portrait and landscape there as well. Step 5 tells us we're going to click the top down arrow 3 times until 0.7 inches appears. So here we have our top, and we're just going to click this down arrow 3 times to where it says 0.7. Then we're going to click on the bottom down button here to where it also says 0.7. Now you can type these in as well. You don't have to use the up arrow and down arrow on here. But from here, if I press the tab key, notice it moves down to the next area, and I can just type in 0.7. And this is step 6 on there, is to press your tab key and type in 0.7. And then we're going to press tab again, and this is for the right on there, and we're going to type in 0.7 as well. So what we've just now done is we've taken the top and bottom margins of the newsletter. They're now going to be 0.7 or 7/10 of an inch. And you can tell, look down here and then the preview, that the margins have been getting smaller. So we're reducing it down by 0.3 of an inch. Now, the minimum allowable margin settings really depend on your printer and the size of paper you're going to be using. Word displays a warning message if you set the margins that are too narrow for your printer. Of course, if you don't have a printer installed, it has a generic printer settings that it will follow. Step 7 tells us that we're going to click on OK. Now take a look at your document while you do this, and you notice that the document spreads out a little bit more. That the margins have now changed to 0.7 of an inch, or 7/10 of an inch. The location of each margin, right, left, top, and bottom, is shown in the horizontal and vertical rulers. So you notice that right here, there is showing us our margin of 0.7 of an inch, or 7/10 of an inch. You can also change the margins if you had to, just by pointing and clicking and dragging the margin edge right here. When your mouse pointer turns into this double arrow right here, you can actually adjust your margins there as well. On step 8, it tells us that we're going to click on our View tab. And in this case, we're going to change up the view a little bit to where we see 2 pages. So we need to go here to the Zoom group. Notice how it has 1 page, 2 pages, page width. We want the 2 pages there. And this is going to show you the first 2 pages of the document. And notice how the margins have been reduced on both pages. Step 9 tells us that we need to scroll down just to view all 5 pages of the newsletter on there. And notice how the 5th page is not as full as what it used to be. If we press our Control Home key, that's going to take us back up to the top of the document. And now we can click on the Page Width button. That's back up here on the View tab, Zoom group. There's Page Width. And that's going to zoom us back in so that we can take a look at our document. You want to go ahead and save your changes at this time. Now there's a couple other margins you may have noticed on here. So if we take a quick look back at the page setup, you notice that there is a gutter and a gutter position on there as well. And those are some different types of margins as well. There's also something called a mirror margin, because by default the documents that we create in Word use an 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper in portrait orientation. However, you can change those orientations on there as well as the margins. You can also change the paper size on there as well. So these are a few things. You can change the paper right here to automatically say how wide is it and how tall is it. on there as well. So what we're going to take a look at is that we could actually use something called a mirror margin on there. And margins on there, or mirror margins, are used in a document with facing pages, such as like a magazine, where the margins on the left page of the document are a mirror of the margins on the right page of a document. And documents with mirror margins have an inside and outside margins rather than left and right margins. Of course, another type of margin that we can also use on here is a gutter margin. And a gutter margin adds extra space to the left, top, or inside margin to allow for binding. And you can also add a gutter this way on there. And this is just a couple different types of margins on there that you can actually use to allow you to change how your document looks on there. So that is using the page setup dialog box just a little bit more. You can click on cancel on there, and that concludes video 1. You can now move on to video 2.